This is a fairy loot book that I got months ago when I was still getting fairy loot. This was June of 23. Hey everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my January TBR. So we are here to talk about the books that I would like to get to in the month of January, my first TBR of 2025. I have ambitious plans and yet also not ambitious plans at the same time. I don't know how that works, but like I have a lot of things that I'd like to get to, but I'm also like not always in the mood for reading. I'm like, I'm just cruising is the best way that I can describe it. So I really don't have much else to say. We're gonna see if we can hit all the goals that I did in my last video where I talked about like hitting a book every month. We'll see if we can hit those, but otherwise let's just dive in to the TBR picks, shall we? Number 1. Ooh, a foiled cover. All right, the first book is a foiled cover. And this one was significantly harder than I thought it was going to be because I was trying to find one that had an audiobook that I could actually get to. I finally found one. So we're going to be doing Shanghai Immortal by A.Y. Cho. This is a fairy loot book that I got months ago when I was still getting fairy loot. This was June of 23. So that's saying something. So our main character here is Lady Ying, I believe how you pronounce it. She's half vampire, half fox spirit, and it says that her mother pawned her off to the king of hell as a child. And so she spent 90 years there, running errands, doing things like that. And so she overhears one day, the courtiers plotting to steal the princess dragon's pearl from the king. And so she decides this is her chance to expose them for being cruel to her all these years. So she ends up actually teaming up with a mortal who is in hell to set up the central bank of hell. And so it takes place in this immortal place, but also goes to the mortal Shanghai. And of course, it's probably going to be a romance between them. I believe this is the first in a series. It's a duology, maybe at this point. I don't know. It's stunning. I've had it on my shelves, as you can tell, for quite a while. And it's not very long, which is the vibe that I'm in right now. It's got beautiful sprayed edges as well. I'm excited to see what this one's about. So hopefully I will be able to get to this one sooner rather than later. Number 2. Read a book ending in an even number. All right, this is like the one. I had like one book that I was like, mood was right, and I was like, this has to go on my TBR. So that's what we're using for the next prompt, which is to read a book ending in an even number. So I recently picked up Quicksilver. This is by Callie Hart. This is honestly a lot of things. This is one that I kind of had seen around a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit. And then Gavin from Gavin Reads It All, he read a bunch of romantasy books because he was just diving into romantasy. I think it was near the end of last year is when he did that vlog. And he ended up really enjoying this one. And so I've heard really good things to a couple of people that I follow that like swear by this book and think it's like one of the best books they've read. And I'm kind of diving back into that romantasy vibe at the moment. Like I'm definitely in a fantasy vibe, but like I'm starting to feel the romantasy need to pick up books again, which is great. I'm just going to read you the back because I'm not going to be very good at explaining this. Let's just say that. All right, 24-year-old Sierra Fane is good at keeping secrets. No one knows about the strange powers she possesses or the fact that she has been picking pockets and stealing from the Undying Queen's reservoirs for as long as she can remember. In the land of the unforgiving desert, there isn't much a girl wouldn't do for a glass of water, but sooner or later, every secret comes out. When Sierra comes face to face with death himself, she inadvertently reopens a gateway between realms and is transported to the land of ice and snow. The Fae have always been the stuff of myths, of legends, of nightmares, but it turns out they're real, and Ceres has landed right in the middle of a centuries-long conflict that might just get her killed. the first of her kind to tread the frozen mountains of Yvelia. In over 1,000 years, Ceres mistakenly binds herself to Kingfisher, a handsome Fey warrior who has secrets and nefarious agendas of his own. He will use her alchemist's magic to protect his people, no matter what it costs him or her. So, the ice. That was what I was like, I need to read this soon. So this one might be the end of the month, where like it goes into February, where all I read is romances usually in February, because it's still winter in February, but like this just felt like I needed to pick it up. It's very chunky, so I'm a little worried about that. So according to Goodreads, this is an even numbered book, but look how beautiful it is. I'm not usually a fan of people on covers, but like I'm all for it here. So this is one that I got in December, and I'm just like, I want to pick it up so badly. Number 3. Read a thriller/mystery. Right, the next one is a thriller or mystery, which is great because it helps you pick a thriller or mystery. I'm going for a short one just because, have you seen this chunk? And that's not the only big book on this list. So it's this book, which is the Franny Fisher Investigates. It's part of the Franny Fisher Mystery Series by Carrie Greenwood. Also, I've seen this, I think they redid this cover because I've also seen this titled Cocaine Blues. Either way, I found an audiobook, so I'm hoping that that is the correct one. It's very short. It's part of a series that Chris got me because there is a BBC, I think it's BBC, but it's a British television show called Franny Fisher Mysteries, and it follows a lady detective in Australia in like the 20s. And so that's what this is. It's the book series I believe that it's based on. So super short. It's giving me like Miss Marple, all of those like lady detectives who like investigate against the cops' wishes, but like get stuff done, you know what I mean? So I don't know what this one is all about, but it says bored socialite Franny Fisher leaves the TDM of London society for adventures in Australia. And so it's she's very modern for the time, if it's anything like the TV show. So again, not very long, but I'm excited about it, and hopefully I will get to this one sooner rather than later and see what this is all about, because Chris gave me these like, I don't know, a few years ago, and I still haven't gotten to any of them. Number 4. It's not focusing on my hand. Oh, read a book with smut in it. All right, the next one I think is the only one here that I don't actually own, and that is Mine Till Morning by Lisa Kleypas. This is the first in her Hathaway series. So one of my lovely friends, who's also a big historical romance person, was like, they're doing a readathon for this, or read along for this series. You should do it. And so we ended up agreeing to buddy read this series. It's 5 books long. So the first one is this one in January. I honestly don't know what it's about. I know that it follows the family, the Hathaways, and it's historical romance. It's like a Regency romance. I just started it today as a filming, so I think from what I know, which is like very, very little, it follows a family who has just come into wealth, and so each book in the series follows a different member of the family. And I did not investigate this because I was like, historical romance, check. Lisa Kleypas, check. So if you want to know more, I'll leave everything linked below, but this is a part of a readathon that is happening. I'll also link that video down below if you're curious about it. And then I believe they're doing the Ravenels for the second half of the year. It was hinted at. We'll see. But I've loved the things that I've read by Lisa Kleypas, and this is a series that I did not have on my radar as far as like owning. But I'm interested to see how it goes, and then we'll see. But historical romance and buddy reads. Yay. Number 5. Read a historical fiction. Actually, I straight up lied to you. The next book is also one that I don't own, and that is The Women by Kristen Hanna. Now, if you have been around here for any length of time and know my reading taste, you will go, Kelsey, why on earth did you pick this book up? This looks like nothing you would be interested in. Well, it's part of the in-person virtual kind of book club that I am part of, and they pick a bunch of random books. I've been a part of it for about half a year and have picked up some really good things that I would have never picked up without them. So I am intrigued by this book. I've never read anything by Kristen Hanna. I've got a couple of books by her on my shelves, and I have interest in her mostly because I want to know what the hype's all about. But this one takes place during the Vietnam War, and I do not do books set in war usually. Occasionally something will prevail, but most of the time I don't care, you know? So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I am intrigued to see how I think about it, but I am going in very hesitantly. I don't know a whole lot about this book, but it follows, I believe, one woman, and it talks about the women who were involved in the Vietnam War. And like, especially when the war was over and people were getting like accommodations from the government, they were like, oh, women didn't serve, and they were like, we were nurses and doctors, yes we did. And so I think that's going to be a big conversation. I'm nervous for lots of reasons. I'm nervous because of the time period. I'm nervous because this is an author that I've never read before and is super hyped, but I'm also nervous because I'm pretty sure it's very heavily medically based, and I don't do well with that. So this could blow me out of the water, but I don't know. We're gonna see, but it's a historical fiction, so that's what I have chosen. Number 6. Oh, read a nonfiction. The next one is to read a nonfiction, and for that I'm going to pick a book that Chris got me for Christmas, which is Welcome to Pawnee, Stories of Friendship, Waffles, and Parks and Recreation by Jim O'Hare. One of my favorite, actually I'm pretty sure it is my favorite TV show, is Parks and Rec. I love Parks and Rec. I like can rewatch it and still laugh. Like it's that good. My husband and I have been listening to the podcast when we travel. It's not a ton of the time, but like we have been listening to the podcast of them like rewatching the show. It's called Parks and Recollection. It's on hiatus at the moment, but we are catching up. And throughout that, Jim is one of the hosts, and he was talking about the book that he was writing, and he was collecting all these things. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Well, it came out at the end of last year, and Chris bought it for me, and I just am so excited. It's actually quite heavy for like how thin it is, but it's literally just him collecting stories. There's pictures throughout this book of like people on set, and I'm pretty sure it's Jim's experience. I did find an audiobook that is narrated by a few people, including Jim O'Hare, so I'm hoping to listen to the audiobook while I physically read this. But I love this show desperately. It's so funny, and it's really fun to listen to people talk about the show that like they loved, and it was such a positive working environment. Like everyone has said that when they talk about this show, and everyone who's come on the podcast has talked about how amazing the working environment was and how funny everybody was. And I just think this was just great. I could talk forever. And so also I love how like this on the back, you probably can't see, but each person who like talks about it here is someone who was on the show. So I just am very excited. Again, not very thick. I'm hoping to just dive in and out of this book throughout the month, but this is my nonfiction, and we're gonna hopefully get to it. Number 7. Read a graphic novel or manga. All right, the next one is a graphic novel or manga, which is perfect because I want to read a manga every single month. So instead of being smart and continuing a series that I've already started, I'm going to start a new one. And that is the first volume of Cherry Magic. I think I talked about this in my recent haul when I talked about this book, but I picked this one up because I was doing a BookTube Made Me video for Gavin, and I just kind of fell behind. That's still coming, but this book is one of those. So I thought this would be great. It'll help me continue reading the books that are in that video, and then hopefully that video will come out soon-ish. But this is that one. I don't know a lot about it. It says under the kind of like tagline is 30 years of virginity can make you a wizard. So it is an adult manga, but it's a male-male romance, and there's a guy who hits 30 and he discovers that he can use magic and finds out there's a guy at the place that he works who has a huge crush on him, and he can read this guy's mind. So it's their relationship. I think it's like ridiculously long. I don't know how long the actual series is, but I want to say it's well past 10 volumes. But Gavin loved this one, and I picked it up for that reason, and I'm going to read it this whole month, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But that's my manga that I'm picking. And number 8. Ooh, an illustrated cover. And then the next one is illustrated cover, so I'm gonna be nice to myself, and I'm gonna pick another manga. And for this one, I'm going to hopefully get to the second volume of Perfect World by Ri Aruka. I read this one, the first one, last year when I did that big manga vlog where I read a bunch of mangas, and I really loved the story that was being told, and I have the first 2 volumes, and so hopefully we'll see how it goes in the future. But as you can see, it follows a woman and this guy that she liked in high school, and then in the first volume she meets him again, and he was in an accident and has a spinal cord injury which has left him wheelchair bound, and so it's her kind of getting over her own prejudice of like, oh, I can't like someone like that, and then also getting over the prejudice of the world and watching how the world reacts to him, and kind of like figuring out her feelings for him and getting over some of her maybe ableism towards that. So lots of big things happening in this book, but I'm very excited to dive into the second volume, and hopefully this will get me to continue with the series, because I can't remember how many there are, but I remember loving the first one. So illustrated cover. There we go. That is about it. I'm looking at my list here, and the only other books that I will add is one that I don't even know what it's going to be, and I'm going to say maybe on this one, because we're hopefully going to restart our Lorraine Heath buddy read again this year. It may not be this month. It may end up pushing towards February. I don't know. I have to reach out and ask my friends how we're doing that. So I may squeeze a Lorraine Heath book in here as well. But otherwise, that's the plan. I have, like I said, I have some big plans. I have this chunk. I've got The Women, which is a tough one to get through, and I wanted to be nice to myself with the other things, so that's why there's actually quite a few smaller books on this list. But I'm excited. I just want to start the year having a good time. I want my first book of the year to be amazing. You know, like I just want to have start the year great. And so that is my plan. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. Let me know, as always, if you've read any of the books that I talked about today. Let me know all of your fun bookish thoughts down below, or tell me something that you were planning on reading in February. Are you a mood reader? Do you have seasonal things? Like I, for some reason, just really felt like, for example, Quicksilver, I really just felt like I needed to pick this one up this month because it takes place during an icy world. I don't know why that's been my thing, but all of a sudden I'm like, I want all the winter books. So are you like that, or you just read whatever? Either way, let me know how your reading is going to be going, because this video is probably going to come out a little bit later. But also tell me what you're planning on reading. I would love to know that as well. But if you like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you're a part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links. So be sure to check all that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!